this particular simulation by our next particular guests had the Phoenix Suns in the play-in tournament, and Gambo was very excited about it, and so we have to light the bat signal.
We do. Send that bat signal
up. We have to fire up the bat signal into the sky, and we have to call upon Kevin Pelton, the man responsible for said prediction and for said simulation. And joining us right now, welcoming him back to the show for the first time this NBA season. We love him. We talk to him a lot. He's our guy from ESPN, Kevin Pelton, and he joins us here on Burns and Gambo. Glad to see that the bat signal found you well, Kev.
It's amazing it made it through. There's a lot of clouds today, a lot of rain in the Pacific Northwest. But, somehow I can still tell. And how excited are you guys to have simulations to talk about once again?
Okay. First off, we feel for the Mariners. We wanted them to win with Naylor and Suarez.
That, yeah.
We do feel we wanted the Mariners to win. That's number one. Number two, the thing we're most excited about is not simulations. It's the fact that Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal aren't on a team anymore. So that is the number one thing. What most excites you about the Suns? Durant and Beal are not here. Like, that's the most addition by subtraction. Okay, then we get to the simulations because me and my partner here, we have a bet, a very big bet, like a very big lunch bet. Not the type that's going on right now in the NBA type of betting with the mob and poker. But we have a very... Yeah, we have a very big bet on I think the Suns will be better than they were last year, and he doesn't. So when you run a simulation and you're like, the Suns in the play-in, I'm all over that because, it just backs up my theory that they'll be better than they were last year.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Anything that confirms your prior is going to be exciting. No, I think, it is ridiculous to say, they're going to, Bradley Beal at this stage of his career is a different story, but get rid of Kevin Durant, who is still a very good player, was still instrumental in the start that the Suns had last year before, he suffered the injuries and everything kind of fell apart. But I do think there's an element where so much went wrong last season that, it can't go that badly in some ways again. And I do think there is some underrated talent here. So I don't know for sure if I would take your side of the bet, but I would consider it. It's a good bet. That's why it's a good
good bet. I'm not looking for 50 wins.
It's 37 wins or more, and it's a very expensive restaurant. We've already chosen to be the place we pay off this bet. So it's 37 wins or more. He wins. 35 or less, and I win. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to come down to the last week of the season probably before we know. We've got a long relationship with you going back to the bubble when we used to ask you to run the simulations and things like that. From your perspective, though, what the Sun, and it's just one game, so we're not going to read a whole lot into that, but tell me, what do you like about this year's Phoenix Suns team?
So I think everybody is a little bit, this is maybe to Gambo's point, but everybody's a little more bought into their roles than they were beforehand. And obviously there's still, we need to see how the whole idea of playing Jalen Green at point guard is going to shake out, the wing rotation and everything. But, I think there's an enthusiasm that wasn't there particularly in the second half of last season when this seemed like a slog and everyone was sort of, hoping to just get to the finish line. And, I think that probably starts, as much of a believer as I am in Mike Budenholzer with the coaching change and just, getting more buy-in from that element and, a roster that maybe, is transitory, but again, has players who are more excited about the opportunity.
Give me your thoughts. We had Dillon Brooks on our show yesterday, and he brings something that they didn't get with Durant or Beal, and they haven't had since Paul, and that's leadership. He is a leader. And we had him on yesterday, and he loves and embraces the role of villain. He's going to do whatever he can. He'll guard 1 through 4. He'll guard anybody that's not a center and take pride in it. Give me your thoughts on Dillon Brooks. Because when you on the outside, like Dillon Brooks, I hate that guy. Then when he's on your team, you're like, oh, my God, I love that guy.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, is he's the kind of guy that you want on your side, and when you definitely don't like him when he's on the other side. But yeah, I think you go back to Memphis. There were some things that went wrong with the culture there, and I think a lot of that got attributed to him, which is part of why he ended up leaving and going to Houston in unrestricted free agency without really much of an offer from the Grizzlies. I think what we've seen subsequently is maybe the issues in Memphis were not specific to Dillon Brooks or created by Dillon Brooks. And in Houston, I think he was a big part of improving that culture. As part of the veterans, obviously Fred VanVleet, a big part of that, and Ime Udoka coming in as head coach. But the young guys really bought into that, and people seem to follow him. And if he's pulling in the right direction, you're going to get everybody else behind him.
Kevin Pelton from ESPN is our guest here on the Burns and Gambo Show, talking NBA. Suns are taking on the Clippers tonight at 7:30. You'll hear the game here on Arizona Sports. A guy that we've talked a lot about early on in the season is Mark Williams. Gave him 24 good minutes the other night against Sacramento. They're obviously being very, very cautious with him. In your opinion, how high is the upside on Mark Williams? If and I know this is a big if, he hasn't been healthy much his first 3 years, but if he is, what is the upside for a Mark Williams on this roster?
Yeah, I think he can be an average to above average starting center in the league. All the physical tools are there, the finishing ability without question, and that's something that I'm sure the Suns are really excited about. As compared to a year ago when you were talking about Yusuf Nurkic is your starting center and the difficulties that he had finishing around the basket. Besides the health piece, the other part of it is going to be the rim protection and being that consistent, in the right place, deterring shots on a regular basis, because that in Charlotte wasn't always the case, but it wasn't a very good defensive culture in Charlotte. There were a lot of issues at that end of the court for them the last couple of seasons. So, I think this is an opportunity for him to sort of reset at the end and try to, make good of the potential that we certainly saw at Duke, and I think early in his NBA career at that end as well.
Yeah. We haven't seen it yet. So they didn't play any of the rookies in game one. They didn't play Kaman Malawach. They didn't play Rasheer Fleming or Kobe Brea. But they do have 7 guys 23 or younger. Nobody's putting any of these players on, everybody's top 25 list, although Jalen Green does fit into that category as well, so maybe. But like last year, Kevin, like we knew when they would play young athletic teams, they had no chance. And now they are younger, they're more athletic, they've got more length, they've got more size, they can run up and down the court if they want to. I'm not saying that's going to lead to 50 wins, but it should lead to just a much more competitive style of basketball for them.
I think the other thing that's sort of breaking in their favor, you look at the early part of this season, is you worried at the start of the year, like, where are the wins going to come from in the West because of the fact the conference looked so deep. And it's interesting because I guess the one team that we all agreed was going to be really bad in Utah was remarkably impressive in their opening night win over the LA Clippers. But you've got a lot of other teams in the West that have kind of gotten off to shaky starts, whether it's due to injuries or other factors. I think, Sacramento is a good example of that, who Phoenix was able to take advantage of in the opener. So, yeah, I think there is an opportunity there to be competitive for a play-in spot.
All right, so be honest, when you published on ESPN.com the simulation that had the Suns in the play-in tournament, you knew we were going to be calling, right?
Absolutely.
You knew it, right? And that was one simulation of how many you ran, Kevin. Just curious.
That was 1,000.
That was out of the
my goodness. How many out of?
That's not the only one.
Okay, let me just. What percentage out of the 1,000 had him as one of the top 10 seeds? Any idea or no?
I did not look at that actually because I was so focused on just writing about that one particular one. But I guess it's probably in the ballpark of about 10%.
10% chance to be a play-in team.
Okay. Because I know what you. It's cool. I know what you do. You're like, okay, I run 1,000 simulations. I'm just going to randomly pick number 620, and I'm going to write about the crazy things that happen in it, which, if memory serves, it was Orlando and Golden State in the NBA Finals, I think, was the one that you wrote about. It just so happened that the Suns were in the play-in. So you think about 10% of the time you're guessing is how many of your simulations had the Suns in the play-in tournament.
Yeah, just knowing where their projection is overall and sort of the spread that's inherent, and I think it's around 10%. Yeah, I did look at one other simulation, and I don't think anyone won more than 55 games in that one. So I was like, well, that one's going in the trash heap.
Oh, wow.
We'll go with the second one. But I hadn't done the playoffs when I chose it. So Orlando coming out as the champion was as much a surprise when I was, finishing up as it was to everybody who read the story.
I'm sure it was. Kevin, we appreciate you and coming on and putting up with the two of us. So thank you. I'm sure we'll be talking to you at some point again during the season, man. Have a good one.
Well, you'll probably need me to run the simulations on the chances of winning the bet. So, yeah, I'll stay tuned on that.
Just run a whole bunch of simulations that haven't beaten the Rockets the first time they play them, and then we'll have you on.
Thanks, Kev. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Pelton
Kevin.
from ESPN.com. He's a good sport to put up with us.
Thanks for watching Burns and Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.